All right, let's start with a big question. Do I like Colleen Hoover? Actually, let me rephrase that. I don't know Colleen Hoover as a person. By the way she's gone about marketing It Ends With Us, and that's both the book and the movie, by obscuring its more serious themes and pretending it's a rom-com, I have absolutely no doubt that I would not like Colleen Hoover as a person. She sounds like a very unpleasant person, to say the least, and potentially perhaps somewhat of an abuse apologist, to say the most. However, that is not at all what today's video is about. The question I'm actually asking, the question should really be, do I like Colleen Hoover's writing? In a vacuum, do I think she is a good writer? Do I like her books? I've given this question a lot of thought, and after reading a lot of her books and being highly critical of them on YouTube, and knowing that I, in the future, intend to read more of her books, and also will likely be highly critical of those books as well, and also knowing that I do have a lot of serious critiques of her writing, I have a lot of issues with her style and with her books' content, and then, of course, with the caveat that I think that her books are miscategorized and need to do a much better job of telling the reader what they're getting into. Beyond that, in a vacuum, the answer to the question, do I like Colleen Hoover's books, I think at the end of the day is yes. Yes, I do. I like Colleen Hoover's writing. Now, that may surprise you, so I'm gonna need you guys to let me explain, okay? A lot of the criticism I see Colleen Hoover getting, or at least a lot of the hate that I saw her getting before the It Ends With Us, all of the debacle about that movie coming out, I've been working on this video for a long time, you guys. A lot of that criticism seemed very 90s to me, but not in like a fun retro way, in more of a satanic panic kind of way, more of like a Jack Thompson thinks video games are a bigger problem than guns kind of way. The demonization of fictional media really scares me right now, especially when so many politicians are extremely trigger happy with the book bans, and regardless of which types of books are currently being banned, if we keep setting the precedent that certain media is not fit for consumption, then who's to say that the thing you like won't be the thing that comes next? The answer is not to bury the media that scares us, it's to engage with it sincerely, at least in my opinion. Do Colleen's books glorify abuse? I don't know. What does that mean? Does Grand Theft Auto glorify violence? Maybe, but it's fiction. Is Colleen Hoover the woman herself writing fiction that will cause women to choose to be assaulted or abused? No, because getting assaulted and abused is not a choice that a woman makes. A woman reading a book because she enjoys the thrill of the insanity, that's not going to cause a man to hurt her. A man being abusive is what's going to cause that. And to be clear, I think that if you have trauma related to the topics covered in Colleen's books, you should not read them, and yes, that is why my main legitimate critique of her is the way that she sells her pregnancy fetish erotica as contemporary romance with no warnings. I think that's completely unethical, and that's why I don't like her as a person. But I don't think that in a vacuum that serves as a full, intellectually honest critique of her writing. Do Colleen's books make me angry? Yes. Do they confuse me? Yes. Do they frustrate me? Yes. But I also read books because I like to feel emotions, and her books do that. They make me feel things, and sometimes the thing they make me feel is excitement because I'm so fascinated at how the story could possibly even attempt to get more unhinged than it currently is right now. The answer then becomes, do I like Colleen Hoover ironically or sincerely? And I guess the answer to that is both. Back when I was a teenager and when I was in my early 20s, I used to really like drawing these distinctions between ironic enjoyment and sincere enjoyment, but the older I get, at this point in my career, I think that distinction has become kind of meaningless. The concept of ironic humor was really popular in the late 2000s and the early 2010s. It was this idea that we could read or watch things that we knew were bad just so that we could make fun of them. The enjoyment came from acknowledging that you knew that piece of media's flaws, thereby not only gaining the surface level enjoyment from that property, but also getting to feel intellectually superior to the genuine fans of that piece of media. This was called ironic humor in the 2010s, but back in the 90s, we just called this having a guilty pleasure. And I think both terms are misnomers that are informed by this capitalist hustle culture type of mindset. What are the things that we are allowed to enjoy genuinely? What are our non-guilty pleasures, our innocent pleasures? Well, documentaries maybe, non-fiction books about how to be better at our jobs, classic literature. Nobody says they enjoy Shakespeare, ironically. Nobody says that Sophocles is their guilty pleasure, or that studying philosophy is like a thing that they just enjoy for the meme. Why not? Because those are the things that reflect wealth, power, and success. Those are the pieces of media that if you can show others that you appreciate it for its true merits, the elites will know that you're one of the people who gets it. You're smart, you're productive, you like the right things. Everything else is a guilty pleasure because enjoying something that doesn't aid your wealth or your productivity or doesn't improve your academic intelligence, those things are the equivalent of junk food, right? And if you eat too much junk food, you must have no self-control. Obviously, that's not true. None of that's true. These are arbitrary moral distinctions that we socially place onto things, often informed by the ways that we are indoctrinated into idolizing the wealthy. I keep hearing people say these things like, my sister loves Colleen Hoover books, which surprises me because she's usually so smart. She usually has good taste. And to that, I'm like, okay, I have friends who religiously watch Love Island who are also smart and also have good taste. I can enjoy watching My Strange Addiction on TLC, and then I can also enjoy watching Citizen Kane. I think when we're in the world of fiction, we can't really see it as that black and white. I think that does fiction as an art form a disservice. Now, let me be clear. I wouldn't continue reading Colleen Hoover's books if I didn't enjoy them. I'm not just going to torture myself by reading things that I hate every day. If her books bored me, if they didn't keep my attention, I would find a new author to read and review. So yes, Colleen knows something about how to keep a reader's attention. She knows something about how to blow your mind with each scene being more insane than the next. And I think the thing that I like most about Colleen is that she challenges my notions of what makes something good writing. Books are a product. Books exist for the consumer. Who do books exist to please? The reader. Do readers find Colleen's books pleasing? Yes. Thousands of people do, maybe even hundreds of thousands of people are reading her books and they're having a fucking blast. And that alone, in my opinion, makes her a good writer. And if I say it doesn't, that basically means that I'm arguing that the masses have no taste and that those of us with English degrees somehow know what's good for you better than you do. It's to argue that the peasants don't truly know what they want and that I, as the benevolent English professor, must guide you away from the things that you enjoy for the sake of your own good. That's pretentious as hell, and beyond that, it's like borderline aristocratic. I see a lot of people saying things like, Colleen's writing is terrible. I work really hard on my writing, but nobody buys it, and that doesn't seem fair. And guys, I'd be lying if I said I never had those thoughts myself. That is extremely frustrating. I feel that shit every day. But fiction books are entertainment. The metric of what makes entertainment is good is how many people are entertained. And even if in some ways I find myself to be a better writer on a technical level than Colleen Hoover is, in other ways I'm not. In those ways, I have a lot that I could learn from her. So I decided to learn from her. I gave myself a huge challenge over this past summer, starting at the beginning of June 2024, while working on my other videos and other projects in the background. I started working on something new. I decided to try writing a book in the style of Colleen Hoover. I decided to take the elements of what made all of her previous books so crazy and try using those elements in my own writing. So yes, y'all, that means over the past 3 months, I wrote and published a new romance novel under my pen name. I wanted to see how it would sell. I wanted to see if writing like Colleen and using similar graphic design styles in my marketing and advertising to target her similar audience and her demographics, if that would make me money. And lucky for you guys, I documented the entire process. Surprise! This video is a writing vlog, and it has been all along.
Get you some nuts.
Yeah, you effing.
Up yours, woke moralist. We'll see who cancels who.
Before we continue with today's video, we have a quick word from our sponsor. And as a quick aside, today's sponsor is targeted at adults only. My channel as a whole is for adults, especially when I review things related to dark and graphic romance novels and things like Colleen Hoover's books, for example. But I wanted to give an extra warning here because I will be showing some adult products on screen for this ad. Today's video is sponsored by Womanizer. Womanizer is a brand of spicy adult toys, known especially for its unique and revolutionary suction toys, which has a solid reputation for helping 98% of users find a climax. Often multiple climaxes. These products, they're like a really well-structured novel. Multiple climaxes that all come together. As the brand explains, all Womanizer products feature the patented Pleasure Air technology, which stimulates the most sensitive part of the anatomy without contact, using airwaves to gently massage and suction, resulting in a unique climax. Today, I'm showing off one of their best products in my opinion, which is a vibrator called Womanizer Next. This product has 14 different intensity settings with easy control for increasing and decreasing the intensity, plus it runs super quiet, which is great because if my dog is sleeping in the next room, I don't want to wake her up with some loud chainsaw-like noise all of a sudden. She is an anxious dog. She does not need that in her life, okay? I tried this the other night and I could barely hear it, even though, you know, like I was right there. Womanizer Next is also waterproof, so that means that you can use it in the bathtub. I guess that brings a new meaning to the saying, good, clean, fun. In addition to this product, Womanizer offers a variety of toys at all different price ranges, so you can find something within your budget that you enjoy. They also offer free delivery, discreet packaging, and a 5-year warranty on all products. If you're interested in checking out Womanizer's products, go ahead and click on the link in my description below. They also frequently run cool promotions like discounts and free gifts for customers, so be on the lookout for those as well. Do all my cynical reviews of weird romance novels make you feel dead inside? Stop feeling dead inside. Feel alive inside and outside with Womanizer self-pleasure toys, linked in my description below. Thank you to Womanizer for sponsoring today's video. Now let's head back into our romance writing journey. Hello, it is June 3rd, 2024 right now, and I have decided to start this fun new experiment that I'm going to be vlogging on this channel throughout the next month or two. Basically, I was having so much fun reading these Colleen Hoover books to review on the channel, and as I'm reading her books, I'm like, I kind of want to try writing like her as an experiment. As I mentioned before on this channel, I have a pen name that I release romance under, so I think I'm going to write the book. I'm going to take you guys through my process of writing it in this video, and then we can see how it does. Like, we can see, does Colleen have some magic formula for, like, how to make books bestsellers? Am I going to take off and become massively wealthy off of it? I don't know. We're gonna have to wait and see. Here's what we're doing to start this book. I'm working on the outline right now. I don't think this will be a super long book. Like, it's not gonna be like, you know, 100,000 words or anything like that, because believe it or not, I'm also writing multiple other books and working on video essays for this channel. Like, this is an additional project, but I think I'm gonna aim for like 30 to 50,000 words. So it's gonna be a novella to shorter novel length book is my goal. And normally when I write romances, they end up being shorter romances. They end up being either short stories or novellas. The longest romance I've published under my pen name so far it was about 35,000 words, and it was about like 140 pages in print. So that's kind of the length that I think I'm going to be going for here with this one, just because I don't have time to do like an expansive novel, but I do want to try this project in good faith and see like what actually comes of it. So here are the rules I've set for myself going forward in writing like Colleen Hoover. First rule, the characters have to have weird and on-the-nose names. So the characters, like, Colleen has talked in interviews before about how she likes to give her characters really weird names so that they'll be memorable. And then when we reviewed It Ends With Us, we talked about how, you know, she gave the characters, like the two potential love interests, Ryle and Atlas, she gave them like very obvious names for their character. She named the main character Lily Blossom Bloom and she likes flowers, like all kinds of stuff. Like, so we're gonna do very weirdly memorable names that are also on the nose. We have to make every potential thing the most high stakes version possible. So that was one of the things we talked about in It Ends With Us, right? When we learned, why was Ryle a neurosurgeon? Why did Ryle want to be a neurosurgeon? Spoiler, not spoiler, real quick. It's because he has a flashback to his past where he shot his older brother in the head and couldn't put his head back together. And it was an accident, but ever since then, he's needed to fix people's heads. Like, it's the absolute most high stakes version. And I'm gonna be honest, as like fun as that is to make fun of, I think that could be a reason that her books are so popular, is that when people are writing, one of the things they tell you in writing workshops and writing advice is that you should always try to raise the stakes if you can, because your readers are going to become more invested in that. So I think she's definitely onto something. As much as her writing is fun to make fun of, and as much as so much of it is like, ew, like also she's onto something, right? Like, people enjoy her books for some reason, and we're gonna try to figure out why that is. If a character just like has a career or has an aspiration or something like that, the reason that they want to do that can't just be like they just like it because they do. It has to be like something wild. Colleen really likes getting women pregnant. I don't know if she's got a breeder kink or something, but there is just an excessive amount of constant pregnancy in these books. I may have to put a pregnancy in this one. there has to be lots of graphic sex scenes, and there has to be like at least one over the top sex scene, but a lot of like graphic sex scenes in weird, like in weird situations. So I think that'll happen as well. I mean, above all else, it has to be a romance. And it's going to be a male-female romance. I don't think Colleen has ever written a same-gender romance before. I have written male-female romances under my pen name. I haven't written a male-female romance under my pen name in over 2 years, I would say. The last few I've written have... Oh, okay. Well, that's not entirely true. Around Christmas, I released one where a husband and wife are the main characters, but it was also like a bisexual polyamorous swingers story. So anyway, my point is I don't think that's not what we're going for here. The last time I wrote like a one man and one woman end up together exclusively with each other kind of romance was a long time ago. I've been writing lots of like two women together, two men together, multiple people, beyond more than two people together, that kind of thing. But now we're gonna do one man, one woman, and that's gonna be the romance. So that'll be fun to do something I haven't done in a while. So those are the rules in place. I'm gonna tell you guys what I've come up with so far, and then we're gonna go through the process of outlining this story together, and then we'll check back in as things move along. So, okay, the other night I was watching my favorite Gordon Ramsay show, which is Hotel Hell. It's second only to it's first only to... Kitchen Nightmares is second only to it. That's what I'm trying to say. I love Kitchen Nightmares. I love Hotel Hell. I bet you guys can imagine what kind of mental state I was in if I was spending all night watching Hotel Hell. So I was losing my mind laughing at this. The first episode, the pilot of Hotel Hell, is the funniest episode. It's a 2-part pilot, and it takes place at a hotel called Juniper Hill Inn. And there's just so much unhinged drama in this episode, okay? And so I'm rewatching this episode for the millionth time when it hits me that Juniper Hill is the perfect, like, Colleen Hoover style romance novel protagonist name. So our main character in this is going to be named Juniper Hill. And I figured since I was inspired to write this while watching Gordon Ramsay that I would make this like a cooking reality show style romance. So Juniper Hill is 23 years old, and here's what I have so far. She loves the movie Ratatouille, and she used to watch it as a kid with the volume maxed out to drown out the sound of her parents fighting, and her first crush was the rat. But it's like, okay, why does she like to cook? Well, I was thinking, like, in It Ends With Us, the main character, Lily Blossom Bloom, she had this weird obsession with Ellen DeGeneres, and she loved Dory from Finding Nemo, and she just kept coming back to Finding Nemo, but Finding Nemo was like, I loved the line, just keep swimming, because I wanted to drown, and it was like all this really dramatic stuff, right? So I'm like, okay, Juniper Hill, she doesn't just love the movie Ratatouille because it's a good movie and a lot of people like it, no, she loves this movie because it was the movie she turned on to max out the sound of her parents fighting when she put the volume on really loud, and her first crush was the rat. That's kind of weird, but there's gonna be like a little bit, like, this is the thing. I think Colleen Hoover, like, if you're reading her books and getting a lot of sexual gratification out of them, like, genuinely, I think they appeal to a demographic of, like, women who are freaky enough that they have some, like, freaky kinks, but they're also, like, still a little bit repressed enough that they're not, like, ready to join, like, the full monster fucker fandom or anything like that, but but they got weird little goblin mode tendencies. That's at least the vibe I'm getting. I'm not entirely sure, but we're gonna see if that's true as I continue to write this. So her first crush was the rat. That will be somehow incorporated into a role play with the male main character. The male main character's name is Basil Hunter. I named him Basil because that is a spice, and he's a chef. It's gonna be that obvious. So his name's Basil Hunter. He's 25 years old. He's just won a cooking reality show and opened a lakefront restaurant by Lake Michigan. I'm setting it in Chicago because that's the only city I know well enough to be able to write about quickly. He's originally from London because I want him to have an accent like Gordon Ramsay, so he's from London. And I was thinking, well, why does Basil want to be a chef? Could it be that he just likes cooking? No. That's not how we do things in Colleen Hoover world. He wants to open as many restaurants as possible. That's his goal, because his grandma died in a restaurant kitchen fire, and he now has to open as many restaurants in her memory. So he'll name all the restaurants after his grandma. He wants to make it a chain. I haven't decided what his grandma's name is yet. But he'll make like a chain. He wants to make a chain of restaurants all named after his grandma who died in a kitchen fire. His grandma inspired his love of cooking, and his parents were dead, so his grandma was the one who raised him. So again, always heightening the stakes as much as possible. The only scene idea I currently have for this book is that at one point they're gonna try to make ratatouille together. Like, this is gonna be like a burger restaurant by the lake, but she loves the movie Ratatouille, so at one point they're gonna go to make ratatouille, and they're gonna get so horny. They're gonna do a role play where she pretends that he's the rat. He'll have like some gray in his hair, and he'll remind her of the fur from the Ratatouille rat, and she'll be like, "Oh, I like that gray hair." But he's 25 years old. He just has a little bit of early gray. Everyone has to be young and sexy, okay? So they'll do that. They'll do a little hair pulling like Ratatouille as part of the sex scene. And then he'll end up penetrating her with the zucchini. That's all I have so far. I just know that that's gonna happen somewhere in this book, because that is the kind of scene. And I can just imagine, like, if someone were reviewing this book, like if one of my fellow booktubers who reviews Colleen Hoover were up here deciding to review this book, this thumbnail could just be like, he put the zucchini where? I've decided that the title of the book is going to be called If You Can't Take the Heat, ... And just to be clear, like, if the question is like, am I taking this seriously? The answer is yes, but I'm also having fun with it. Like, it's a combination of both. I want to actually figure out, like, what I can learn about my own writing from this, and what I can learn about what it means to be a writer who appeals to a lot of readers and who gets people super invested in these plots. But at the same time, I'm also not like, I'm not trying to write the great American novel over here. I'm over here trying to just have fun with it and write the weirdest things I can possibly think of and embrace the weirdness that comes into my head. And I do want it to be funny. So there's a combination. Like, I'm not trying to parody Colleen Hoover. I am genuinely trying to see what I can learn from her, but I also want to just have fun with it. I hope that line of thinking makes sense. That's definitely what I'm going for here. One thing I will not do, though, a lot of Colleen's books have scenes of SA. They have very violent scenes of partner violence, and I'm not writing that. That's the one thing that I'm like, you know, for the sake of my own mental health, I'm not putting that in there. Like, I don't actually want that in these books, just because it makes me highly uncomfortable to read it, and so it makes me even more uncomfortable to write it, because that's a whole, you gotta come up with it, and I don't want my brain going there. So I'm just not going to include that, but I will include like extremely weird sex scenes and extremely high stakes things. They're just, anything sexual is always going to be consensual in these books, because I can't not do that. Like, it's gonna weird me out too much, which I don't know. I mean, and again, that's no kink shaming to people who enjoy reading erotica with that, as long as you know what you're getting into and you are of age and you, like, you know, you do you. I just don't want to write it. No judgment if you do. So anyway, that's the journey we're about to go on together. Let's start outlining. All right, we're on the website Story Planner. I like using this website to outline books, but we are on the free version because I don't have a paid version, so we're gonna have to copy and paste everything into a Google Doc. But that's par for the course for me. Save the Pet. Okay, Save the Cat is what it's normally called. That's like the adapted screenplay outline for novels, and I think that this one will probably be good because Colleen definitely follows a formula. So we know for a fact that the end is going to involve Juniper and Basil are together. They also probably should have a baby. So we've got the introduction. So, okay, we got exposition. What's going to be happening here? Juniper Hill is just out of culinary school and gets a job working at a burger restaurant. What should Basil's grandma's name be? 21 baby names inspired by spices at cafemom.com. Let's go here. I don't want to accept the cookies. Oh, poppy, saffron, sage. Rosemary. Jesus, how did I not think of Rose? That's like the most common grandma name. Her name's gonna be Rosemary, obviously. Oh my goodness. Restaurant is called Rosemary's Burger Shack. But the goal is to open a ton of Rosemary's restaurants named after Basil's grandma. Imagine being named Rosemary and raising your grandson Basil. Oh yeah, they're from London. Back in culinary school, she found Basil annoying because, oh yeah, they went to culinary school together. It'll be enemies enemies to lovers kind of thing, right? Enemies to coworkers to lovers.
Because he was always hamming it up, acting more like he wanted to be a TV chef than taking the art of cooking seriously. And then, right after he graduated, he won a cooking show and opened his first restaurant.
Okay, so she watched Ratatouille to drown out her parents fighting, so her parents are probably divorced. So maybe she needs to, like, support her single mom. But she needs a paycheck fast to support her single mom who's struggling with medical bills. Oh, that's a great idea, because then she and Basil could have a fight being like, you don't understand how shitty American healthcare is, Basil. Go back to London where you never have to pay this much for medical treatment. Basil will never understand US healthcare. So that's the backstory, I guess. The stakes, okay, the rising action, the stakes get higher, so obviously,
Juniper and Basil slowly become attracted to each other. Juniper doesn't want to be attracted to Basil because he's so arrogant and always acting like a TV chef rather than a real person. But he's so hot, and he has little streaks of gray in his hair that remind her of her feelings for
Remy the rat from Ratatouille. Dude, there's something to this, I've got to say. By thinking, like, what's the highest stakes version, or, like, the weirdest version of what I can do, like, I've come up with so many ideas so quickly. The climax should be a kitchen fire! Oh, dude! Basil has to save pregnant Juniper from a kitchen fire! Oh my god! See, here's the thing. Here's why writing like Colleen, I think, is a good writing exercise. Because when I thought of that idea, like, 3 seconds ago, my first thought was like, oh my god, no, I don't want to write that. But then I'm like, no, why don't I want to write that? I should write that. That's insane. And that's what we're going for here. So I think there is something to this that's, like, getting me out of my realm of, like, trying to keep things too grounded. I think that is an easy trap for a lot of writers to fall into, the idea of, like, you want characters to behave in a way that is motivated by real human motivations, but that doesn't mean the events have to necessarily be grounded, because if you want the story to be memorable, you gotta have higher stakes things happen. So at first I'm like, no, dude, we can't have another kitchen fire and I'm like, no, dude, we need another kitchen fire, okay? It's like causing me to reflect on my own inhibitions when I think of an idea and I think, oh no, I don't want to write that. Why don't I want to write it? I don't know, but I'm going to. I have to write it. Okay, so he has to. Juniper is pregnant. And he has to save her from a kitchen fire. Estimated number of words. I'm gonna go with 35,000. Oh, I like this. Okay, so Story Planner. It takes you, like, if you estimate the words, it'll structure it like, okay, the first 350 words of the book approximately should be your opening scene. So this is, like, very heavily structured because, again, Save the Cat is based on the Blake Snyder book, which is about screenplay structure, and most Hollywood movies are following very similar formats in terms of, like, how long do we want to hold this opening scene visually for? When do we want to, cut to a new location? And that's always based on things like how, what retains audience's attention the best visually in the movie theater, things like that. So this is the book adapted version for that. So it's definitely, like, really breaks down the specifics of how your story is going to be structured. And I don't know if I'll stick to it 100%, but it is nice for if you're someone who really likes following a structure for stories, it can be a really useful tool. I realized that when it comes to things like themes and, like, the complexity of things like that, you don't overthink it. That's one of my rules for writing like Colleen. You want to come up with the most cliche, like, live, laugh, love type of line ever, go ahead. And that is enough. But when it comes to, like, raising the stakes, whatever weird shit you think, get weirder. So it's like I'm putting my emphasis the opposite of where I normally do. When I'm normally writing a novel, especially one that I'm going to release under my name Savvy and not under my pen name, when I'm writing that kind of novel, I'm normally thinking, like, let's make the themes complex. So we get to the theme, we got the opening image, and then we get a scene that leads to the theme that'll happen a little under 2,000 words into the story. The setup should be about the first 3,000 words, which, okay, so I normally break these into chapters as well. So I'm thinking if it's going to be about 35,000 words, I'm just going to write this here. Let's see. My romance that I wrote last Christmas, that was 35,000 words, ended up being, I want to say 15 chapters. So Yeah, let's aim for 15 to 20 chapters. Because it's also helpful for me to break things down by chapter as well. Setup, like here, this will be like roughly the first 2 chapters will be the setup. And then chapter 3, so the catalyst will happen around chapter 3, right? All right, I need to keep working on this, and I don't want to just take everyone through every single step with this, so I'm going to check back in later with this vlog, but I want to get the outline done, hopefully today if I can, and then, you know, throughout the next couple days, we'll get some drafting going. We're gonna make this happen, all right? Hello, everyone. Today is June 4th, 2024. I am here this morning with, I've got her right here, Colleen Hoover. I hope that you guys like her. I gave her a fun outfit. I got this like pink Boss Babe jacket at the American Girl store like over a year ago at this point. And then I got some of these clothes at the same garage sale where I got this doll. And anyway, I think she's looking pretty good. I think that this Colleen Hoover is going to be helpful for me for continuing to write this book. She's going to stay by my side and we're going to get through this together. So yesterday I got most of the full book outline done, and I also outlined the first 3 chapters. I think the book is going to end up being 15 chapters total. That's the goal that I'm going for, and that's kind of how I'm plotting it out. Also, as I was doing that last night, I was like, I need to rewatch the movie Ratatouille. I haven't seen Ratatouille in forever. So I rewatched it, and I was shocked. This must be how Colleen felt when she watched Finding Nemo. I was shocked how much this movie resonated with the book that I'm writing. For example, there's a part where Linguini is hiding in the food closet, and the head chef, the evil head chef, comes in. And Linguini's like, I'm just trying to get familiar with the vegetables. And he's like, you can know the vegetables too well, you know? And I'm like, oh, I need to put that line right before they fuck the zucchini. But no, outside of that, this quote, okay? I don't know how this happened, but this quote from Ratatouille, like, you guys just have to listen to this. So, for everyone who remembers Ratatouille, in the movie, there's the infamous food critic Anton Ego, and he originally gave the restaurant the review that like destroyed its reputation, and now he's coming back and he's gonna eat the ratatouille and give a new review. And this is like his review that he writes. I just see this. Think of how well this connects to the project I'm doing right now. Okay, just think about that. In many ways, the work of a critic is easy. We risk very little, yet enjoy a position over those who offer up their work and themselves to our judgment. We thrive on negative criticism, which is fun to read and fun to write. But the bitter truth we critics must face is that in the grand scheme of things, the average piece of junk is probably more meaningful than our criticism designating it so. But there are times when a critic truly risks something, and that is in the discovery and the defense of the new. I'm just reading this like, wait. This quote was targeting me, a book reviewer. Personally, a book reviewer who's out here like, yeah, if I roast Colleen Hoover's books, everybody's gonna enjoy that. But what if I try to write like her? That's a creation. Is the creation of something new always more valuable than the criticism of something, even if the criticism itself is entertaining? And now I'm like being all philosophical about this book. So anyway, thank you for that. Watch Ratatouille, guys. It holds up. Anyway, back to outlining this thing. We'll update later. Hello, everybody. It is currently July 3rd, 2024, and it is time for me to give you guys some updates on where this book is going. I have finished the complete outline of it, and I've been working on a cover, and I have started writing the book. Also, as a quick update, I have set it as a pre-order for Amazon Kindle. I talked about this in my NaNoWriMo vlog from last year, and I know that this is an insane thing to do, but a lot of times I will set the pre-order date before I've finished writing the book, and the reason I do that is that you can't, it gets locked in, right? You can't undo it unless you want to lose your pre-order privileges on Amazon. So when you're a boss babe and you don't have like a boss telling you what to do, sometimes you gotta let someone awful like Jeff Bezos tell you what to do. You've gotta say, okay, now I am accountable to the entire company of Amazon, which is, I know, a crazy thing to do, but it forces me to get the book done by that deadline. So if I don't get the book done by that deadline, I will be penalized by Amazon, which is not a thing I want. And I know that that makes it really stressful to get it done on a deadline, but when I set that kind of thing for myself, it forces me to get it done. And what if it sucks? I mean, it could suck no matter what. I have to get it done and get it out regardless. Someone in my comments told me that that is a common ADHD life hack, so if that's true, then checks out. So anyway, I wanted to take you guys through the process I went through for making the cover of this book, and then I will update everyone on where I am with the outline and writing the first draft, and then I will get into what I'm doing for the setup of the pre-order and all that. Alright, so this is the cover I made. I made this on Canva, so you can see here I've got this, "If you can't take the heat." The title's actually "If you can't take the heat, ... because I think that's more dramatic, but I couldn't, there was no way to format it on the cover that made it look nice from like a graphic design perspective. I decided, again, because I'm trying to do this inspired by Colleen Hoover and her style for things, I've noticed that a lot of her books, especially books like It Ends With Us, Ugly Love, a few others, November 9 to an extent too. Some of her books, they tend to have these big block letters on the cover, these giant block letters where the text takes up the entire main portion of the cover of the book. And then sometimes there's just like, you know, some abstract things in the background. Like, and It Ends With Us, there were just flowers in the background, I guess, because her name was Lily Blossom Bloom. So now what I decided to do here was I did "If you can't take the heat," I did big block letters on the cover like that, and then I mostly wanted to use fire as an abstract thing, but I also wanted to make it clear that this book is about cooking, not about like fire, like the general concept of fire. I didn't want to like trick people into thinking this was going to be like a firefighter romance or something. So I just added these little Canva graphics. I have a Canva paid account, so I that's what I decided to do for this. I just added these little stock graphics of of a male chef and female chef. That way people know it's a MF romance, it's not a LGBT romance, and people will also know that it's about cooking. So then I've got over here added in the description. Here's my description of the book. Ready for this? Here we go. Fresh out of culinary school, Juniper Hill has always dreamed of owning a lakefront restaurant in Chicago, but when she gets hit with the bill for her mom's cancer treatment, working as a chef goes from a dream to a necessity. If only the perfect lakefront restaurant, which just opened up, weren't owned by Basil Hunter. He's the loud, obnoxious know-it-all Juniper met back in culinary school. Who cares that he's hotter than the burning stovetop? He's just the annoying study abroad student from London, who's only going to become more insufferable now that he's just been crowned winner of the famous Restaurant Network show Champion Chef. To Juniper, working for Basil means putting her own reservations aside to make room for his massive ego. But what if behind the perfect veneer of rising steam and kitchen smoke, Basil is hiding some spicy secrets? So I had fun writing that. I always enjoy writing the back cover copy, or like the description. I guess it's not, if I'm doing it mostly as an ebook, it wouldn't be back cover copy. I think I'm going to print this one as a paperback too, just for fun. So I've got the cover made, and the next thing I'm working on then is going to be, well, obviously finishing the first draft. I can take you guys through some of my outline for it. All right, so I showed you guys going through the Save the Cat style outline. I finished that, and then I've been working on breaking it down chapter by chapter. So for example, I'm about to write this flashback chapter from 3 years earlier. What action does the hero take toward achieving the goal? So then I'm thinking, okay, you know, this is a good outline. I like that it breaks it down like this because it forces you to think about what is my main character's goal in this particular chapter as opposed to what is my main character's goal for the story as a whole. Because your main character is going to have a goal and a motivation that drives the entire story. But then if you want to make each chapter really engaging, they'll probably have an individual goal in each chapter too that's going to drive those specific scenes. So what action does she take toward achieving her goal? Well, 3 years earlier in the flashback, her goal in culinary school is to impress her teachers and get good recommendations, do a good job in culinary school, hopefully to get, you know, get a leg up on opening her own restaurant one day. So she has a chef who's a professor who's in the classic American foods class, and her teacher, Chef Victoria, is a very successful chef, and Juniper really wants to impress her. But she gets paired with Basil and this other annoying kid in their class named Clyde. They get paired together for a school project or like a cooking challenge in their class, and Basil's going to kind of take over the project and Clyde's going to side with him, and this is going to make Juniper really upset because he's taking attention away from the professor's attention away from her, and he's getting all the credit for the work. But she's also going to start noticing that he's really hot, because we need to get the sexy themes going early on, right? Like, that's another thing I've noticed with Colleen Hoover and her writing too, is that sexy concepts are usually brought up early on, and that's just a general romance and erotica thing in general, right? You want your characters to start feeling an attraction. You want to set the tone that there's going to be something spicy going on, or some love in the air. You want to set that tone early, even if the characters aren't there yet themselves, just because you want the audience to be in that kind of mood when they're reading it. At this point, I wrote chapter 1, and in chapter 1, we know that Basil's hot because Juniper's mom keeps teasing her about it when they're watching him on TV at the Champion Chef finals. But in this chapter, I think she herself is going to have to notice that he's really hot and not want to feel that way about him, because she's annoyed at him for taking all the credit for her work. I like these questions, right? So what action do they take toward achieving the goal? How is the plot forwarded? And then this is where I can write out my bullet points for like what specifically is going to happen. And then I love this. What does the hero know and feel that's different from the start of the chapter? I like that it makes me have to think about this, because you want to make sure that each chapter is in service of the plot as a whole, right? She feels differently at the end because she hates that she learns that she's going to have to work for Basil, which is something that she didn't want to do. And then the reader learns that, Juniper's love for her mom is greater than her pride, because she's going to have to start working there to help pay for the costs of her mom's treatment. So that's kind of where we're at. I have this outlined for multiple different chapters at this point. So then I'm on the Amazon ebook setup page, and here's kind of what I'm doing. So this is to set up the ebook pre-order. I will set up the paperback much later on. So when you're setting it up, right, you can say like, no, I have the file. I'll upload the file later. I set the pre-order for the book to release on July 30th. I wanted to get it, books usually release on Tuesdays. People get excited for Tuesday book releases. So I wanted to put it on a Tuesday, and I did it at the end of the month because I think I'll be able to get it done by then. And I want it to be done before the end of the month so that I can, spend some time in early August looking at analytics and things like that. So I'll be able to report on that for you guys before this video comes out. So I set that as the release date, which means if I want it to come out July 30th, I need to get the final draft uploaded by July 26th in order for them to process it and everything, which means that I really got to get a move on finishing this book. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the vlog where I'm writing like Colleen Hoover. Today is July 16th, 2024, and I'm currently about halfway through writing the draft of this story. And I've been kind of editing as I go along, and I've been thoroughly outlining it. So it's been a fun process. I'm excited to show you guys the updates I've made. Today I'm gonna aim for, I always aim for trying to get a 10,000 word day, but I also have a couple things I'm filming, so we're gonna aim for the 10K day today. I think if I get another 10K written, I can get this story 2/3 of the way done, because it's definitely on track to be about a 30,000 to 40,000 word novella, or I guess shorter novel. The distinctions are kind of pointless when it comes to indie publishing, in my personal opinion. But right now what I wanted to do was take you guys through the process of coming up with some ad keywords, setting a budget, and showing you guys how I'm going to get ready for launching this. So in part of the process of writing like Colleen Hoover, that's also involves me targeting her audience, targeting people who like her books, targeting people who enjoy reading romance and reading unhinged romance and things like that. So let's go. We're going to do keyword targeting. So it's going to be when people search for something. This book will come up as one of those sponsored products on Amazon. I'm going to set the entire budget for the days around its launch, because on Amazon, you want to get the momentum going, right? You really want to get it so that the day before it comes out, people are pre-ordering it. So you get those initial numbers, it climbs to the top of the algorithm, and then it gets a good boost right from the beginning. So if this book is coming out on July 30th, then I'm going to have it go from July 29th until July 31st. So this is 3 days of ads, and then I'm probably going to make $20 the daily budget, but I'm going to see if it suggests something different first based on the keywords that I choose. When I've done targeted ads on my romances in the past, I've noticed that sometimes Amazon doesn't pay attention to the budget. It doesn't really look at the budget as a maximum, but rather as a very rough guideline. So When this does actually launch, I'm going to need to be closely monitoring it day to day to see if it blows past my budget and I need to pause on the ads, because if that happens, then, you know, I can't be out money for this. I just don't have that much money to be paying up front at the moment. When you do keyword targeting, you can do broad, phrase, and exact. If you do broad, that basically means like anyone who searches any type of phrase that has keywords that are like that. It can be a longer sentence, it can be variations on the word, like it could be a plural form of it could be a past tense form of the verb, just various things like that. Phrase includes anything that includes that phrase in it, even if it's not an exact match, and exact is people searching for exactly that. So I'm going to try some of the different types, broad, phrase, and exact, depending on which keyword it is specifically. And then I'm also going to choose various bids. So the idea behind the bids is that, you know, Amazon does the whole cost per click advertising. So I'm not like paying them an amount up front for them to show it for a certain number of days. Rather, they're going to show it, and then depending on how many people click on the ad, that's how much I'm going to get charged. So the bid that I put in will be how much I would pay each time that ad is clicked on. So I want to make sure that the amount I'm bidding is lower than the profit per book, but is high enough that it's competitive so that other people who are targeting the same keywords aren't going to have their ads prioritized over mine. For a couple keywords, I might be willing to go a little bit over what the profit of the book would be, just for the sake of making sure that it's visible with those specific keywords. All right, we'll just start with Colleen Hoover as a keyword, and then each line. So we've got Colleen Hoover. Let's do It Ends With Us. I'd say tonally, If You Can't Take the Heat, my book, is closest to It Ends With Us in tone in terms of the Colleen Hoover books I've read so far. And then I'll look at the suggested ones also and kind of search those on Amazon in an incognito tab to see how those measure up and compare. But we're gonna do some of these for now. Let's also do Colleen Hoover books. I know that if we do broad, that it will be included in that. New romance books about restaurant. All right, let's go with that. Let's give that a try. Chef romance book. Sounds good. So let's start with these. Let's add these. So I don't want to necessarily target broad, phrase, and exact for all of them, because that could end up costing me too much, and I'd rather put a higher bid on some of these. So Colleen Hoover, for the broad phrase, up to $1.93. You know, I'm going to make my bid the maximum for that, right? $1.93. Because that's the big one I want to target right here. So we've got Colleen Hoover. It Ends With Us. I will do It Ends With Us. I'll do exact for that one. And I will also, do I want to do 207? You know what? I'm going to do $2 for that one. We're gonna hope that this works, and I will, you know, film to update you guys when we're gonna look at the analytics of it and see how it's going. But for now, I just have to get back to writing the book itself, because that's what's important. So I'll see you guys soon. Hey everyone, it's Savvy, and it is July 16th, 2024. It's a Tuesday. As I mentioned, I'm about halfway through the first draft of this restaurant romance called If You Can't Take the Heat, but I wanted to give you guys an update on what I'm working on with it and show you guys some of the progress I made and talk about some of my process here. So last week I was spending a lot of time writing this, and while writing, I was watching Brandon Sanderson's lectures on YouTube, because he's a professor at BYU, which, like, I know that's a Mormon college. That's not really my thing, but his lectures are really good when it comes to, like, breaking down plot and character and setting and things like that. I think, I don't write fantasy myself, but I think it's really good to learn from epic fantasy authors, because they're so good at setting, they're so good at world building, they're so good at these things that tend to be my weakness when I focus more on, like, action and dialogue, probably because I used to be so into screenwriting and I came from more of a film studies type of background. But I was worried about the opening to my book, and then I watched one of Sanderson's lectures and it just completely helped me fix it. So this is how chapter 1 originally started. I knew I needed a really intense opening line because, again, in the experiment of writing like Colleen Hoover, I've shown you guys how she always has these really intense opening lines. Sometimes they go somewhere, sometimes they don't. I decided mine would go somewhere because even though I'm writing like Colleen, I'm still going to try to write well, right? The book started with spending my 23rd birthday sitting in the waiting room of the cancer ward is already bad enough. Yet somehow my morning gets even worse when a receptionist in pink scrubs turns on the flat screen TV mounted on the beige wall across from us. I wasn't totally sold on this being the opening line of the whole book. Like, I can see how it could be, in the sense that it's like, okay, we got a lot of things set up here, all right? this girl's in the cancer ward. Why is she here? Why is she in the waiting room? Why are things going to get worse the second that the TV gets put on? I thought it created some intrigue, but I didn't think it did a good job of like setting up what we're going to get in this story, right? Because when you're looking on Amazon's Look Inside feature, which is a big deal, especially if you're going for Kindle Unlimited page reads or if you're going for people to download the ebook, people are going to look inside. They're looking inside of tons of books and they want to have the one that's going to grab them. Yes, there is a whole plot, right, about Juniper's mom having cancer and how she's fighting that. That doesn't tell us that this is going to be like a kitchen romantic comedy. So I was like, what am I going to do? This is how the first chapter starts. It fits in the outline, it fits in the story structure. And then I was watching one of Brandon Sanderson's lectures and he was talking about how science fiction stories never start where they actually start. They always start with like an epic space battle or like a huge battle somewhere, because the majority of stories actually start with like a kid on a farm about to discover something, but that's a really boring opening and it doesn't tell you all the crazy cool shit you're about to get. And I was like, he's right. This is what this is missing. We need to know that this story is going to be an unhinged romantic comedy with like weird ass sex scenes and like all kinds of strange references, like that's where we're going with this. We're not like this is the opening of the story, but that's not tonally the opening. It doesn't tell us what the promise of what we're going to get is. So I started thinking more and more about what he was saying in his lecture. And then I realized I think I can add a prologue. So this book's going to have both a prologue and an epilogue, and 15 chapters. So I guess it's like really 17 chapters total now. But let's go up here to where I added the prologue. The prologue now starts with, back when I was in culinary school, I once had a sex dream about a rat. That's such a better opening, right? Because now it's like, what the fuck? And I want people to be like, what the fuck? Because this book is going to be kind of weird. It's going to be pretty normal in terms of romantic comedy pacing, but it's also going to be kind of weird. And then she goes into like a whole thing about how like she's not a furry, but she doesn't mind furries. She respects them. She just isn't one. But also she's in love with Remy the rat from Ratatouille. And it also gets us into her initial culinary school struggles, the stress she's having there. And it foreshadows some of the struggles, some of the like conflicts that she's going to have in her class where she and Basil first meet. So I'm like, this is so much more. We start, maybe you're not supposed to start with the flashback, I don't know, but we're gonna see how this does because I like this so much better. So now that I've got that, we're about 12,000 words into this story, so I need to just keep going with it. I'll check in with you guys later. Hello everyone, today is July 22nd, 2024, and I want to introduce you to my new doll. Her name is Juniper Hill, just like the main character in this book. So this, for American Girl doll fans out there, this is the American Girl doll Grace. She was one of the girls of the year. She had a movie made about her that I think was starring Olivia Rodrigo. I'm pretty sure that was the claim to fame from it. But anyway, her character was about being a pastry chef and about wanting to go to France and wanting to become a professional baker and things like that. So because this doll was a chef, and someone on Reddit in the American Girl doll subreddit was selling her, like they found her used for $4 at like Goodwill or something, and they were going to resell her really cheap. So I was like, you know what, I'll take you up on that. I decided to scoop her up because I've always thought she was super cute with like her blue eyes and her dark hair and her freckles. I just think she's just a really cute doll. But I was never that connected to Grace's story particularly. And also I don't necessarily need a doll named Grace because I already have a doll named Marie Grace. So I figured, you know what, I will get her and I will rename her to Juniper, and I will have her be the representation of the main character of If You Can't Take the Heat, ... Because I like to have dolls that represent main characters in books that I write. I have dolls representing the main characters of 90s kids. I have a puppet for Sean Boston, and I have a novel, Not Straight, that I'm working on that I'm hoping to publish in 2025, and one of the things I wanted to do to celebrate was to get a doll to represent the main character of that book too. So all in all, I just think having dolls to represent characters in books that I write is very fun. So everybody meet Juniper Hill. I put her in this cute outfit that it's a combination of, this is Z's hat and jacket. This is a shirt from the Canadian Girl Dolls, the Maple Leaf Girls collection. These shoes I think belong to Kavi's performance set, and then these pants were just like, I just got them at the American Girl store the other day. So anyway, this is Juniper. Just wanted to introduce her to you guys. So I'm about 20,000 words into the first draft of this story now, and it is due by the middle of Friday. I have to upload it by then or else Amazon's gonna penalize me. And So I budgeted my time so that I got my video that I need to put out next done. Like, it's filmed, it was scripted, like I got all of that done. So this week is solely focused on finishing writing for this book so that I can get it out, which in a way is also me working on a video because I'm working on it to put it out for this video. I think if I write 5,000 words a day, I can easily get it done by Wednesday or Thursday. I'm going to aim to try to write 10,000 words today. One, because I want to be ahead of the game, and two, because sometimes these books turn out longer than I expected, and I just don't want to put myself in a position where I'm really stressed at the last minute. So I'm going to be working on it today during some writing sprints. I'm going to get a lot of writing done for that. And the book, I'd say I'm past the halfway point for sure. And one thing I've noticed that is really fun about this experiment, which is kind of something I was mentioning earlier, is that whenever I have a crazy idea, I'm forcing myself to follow through with it. And I think that's why, again, I think that's why people like Colleen Hoover so much, because whenever she has a weird ass idea, whenever it's like, holy shit, that's crazy, most people would think of that idea in passing and say that's weird and move on, she will pursue that. And I think that's something we can legitimately learn from, because, you know, the other day I was writing and I was having the main characters unpack all their trauma for each other. And the love interest, Basil, at one point he's like, talking about his past, and I was like, oh shit, what if I just give him a dead twin brother? Like, is that weird? Is it weird to give a guy a dead twin brother? Is it like cliche? Sort of. Is it cliche in a way that's like insane and will derail the whole story? Probably. But am I going to do it? Well, yeah, I have to. It's part of the experiment. So I just gave him a dead twin brother. And now I have to unpack why he has a dead twin brother and all of that. Right? So that's part of the experiment that's been really fun for me, is just forcing myself to follow through with these plots wherever they may take me. I think it's legitimately good. I can't wait to reflect on this when the whole process is done. The book is set for pre-order now, and I'm very excited to give you guys updates. See you guys then. Hello everybody, just a quick announcement. I don't feel like doing my whole camera setup and everything right now. I have just finished the entire manuscript of If You Can't Take the Heat. It is currently 35,338 words, so standard novella, slightly shorter than a novel length. It's perfect. It is time for me to do some revisions. I have been doing some revisions as I've been going along. Do some revisions, do some proofreading, and format this thing in Atticus. So I'm going to take you guys in a minute into my Atticus software so that you can hang out with me while I format this thing. Let's go! Hello everybody, this is the software Atticus that I have. This is what I use to format books. I know a lot of independent authors like to use Vela, I think that's what it's called, or Vellum, but that is an Apple exclusive product, and I have a desktop PC, so I use Atticus. Let me take you through what I've been working on here. So we've got the title page. You can have it just show your title, or you can import an image. So I made this image on Canva that's roughly the cover, but the text is black and white, and it's meant to be on the title page. So when you look at it as a format thing, it looks like that. So I think that's great. So I formatted the first 47 pages so far. I've got a little bit ways to go still. So you can look at it when you're formatting it in like print, or you can look at it as if you're going to read it on different types of e-reader devices, like if you're going to read it on your phone versus if you're going to read it on a Kindle or a Nook. And I think that's really cool. So you can see all the different ways it might look and adjust your formatting accordingly. The formatting on Atticus is pretty straightforward, which I like. You have like the copyright, and it generates an automatic table of contents for you based on what you create here. So I have a prologue, an epilogue, I have my author's note, and then at the end I'll probably add like an about the author section, and also for the ebook version, like links to buy other books and things like that. So right now I've got the author's note here. I just figured I'd add a couple content warnings because this book deals with some pretty heavy topics and does have explicit sex scenes, even though it's kind of funny in parts. It goes through a range of emotions. And even though I'm trying to write like Colleen here, what I'm not trying to do is trick people into reading things that are going to traumatize them by mistake. So I figured it doesn't hurt, and we can see what the author's note looks like. With the formatting for themes, you can customize the theme. So I called this theme Juniper because that's the main character's name. So you can choose everything that you do here, and you can look at how it looks in the actual book as you do that. So you can choose, like, I decided to choose like a sans serif font for the headings of the chapters and things like that, and then a serif font for the actual text of the book. And then you can choose how big things are. You can add like a chapter header image. I decided to use these hearts because it'll remind people we're in a fun romance. So for example, that's what it looks like over here when you start formatting it there. So I got the prologue formatted so far, and I got the first chapter formatted. I'm not fully done with proofreading. What I think I'm going to do is I am going to format the entire book, and then I'm going to export the PDF of the print version, and I'll proofread it from there because it'll give me a chance to see it with a new perspective, and also I can give it to some friends to look over that way too, because it'll be kind of easier to read than just a messy Google Doc. So that's what I'm working on right now. I'm going to get this formatting finished. You can see what chapter one's looking like right now over here. I think it looks cool. You can kind of scroll through the pages. Oh, and then also you can open it as a PDF. So you can see each chapter one at a time in a PDF. So that's what I'm doing over here. I think I like the big number up here. I think that's looking good for the start to each chapter. Got the little cute header image, do the drop caps at the beginning. I think this formatting's looking good. I'm feeling pretty good about this. So I will check back in later on. Got some formatting and some proofreading to do. And I'm very grateful because it is July 24th right now. And this book needs to be uploaded in its final form by July 26th. So I have a little bit of extra time. I will get this formatted, and then hopefully I'll be able to spend some time previewing the files in Amazon, making sure everything looks good. And I'll definitely order a print copy of it for myself because I just want to have it on my shelf. I'm excited about that. All right, I'll see y'all later. Hello. All right. So it is Tuesday, July 30th right now, which means it is book release day. So I have some updates for everyone right now. First of all, yes, the book is done. It is all formatted. It's been submitted since it is book release day. I had to do that a couple days ago. And additionally, I now have the proof of it, of the paperback version. So let's take a look. This is our paperback. Here it is. If you can't take the heat. I like how the paperback looks. I'll definitely insert some pictures. I think it turned out pretty well. Something I'm going to need to work on for future books is like the vibrance of the colors in the cover, if that makes sense. Sometimes I think it's going with like when I go with RGB instead of CMYK, and that might be like a Canva setting or something. The colors tend to be a little more muted when they're printed than they do then they look on the screen. So that's going to be something I will have to maybe fix in the future, but I'm not too worried about it for this book because I assume most books will be bought through the ebook version. So this is the book. I wanted to do an unboxing filming, but I wasn't, it got here a day early and I didn't think that that's what was in the package, so I ended up opening it, and I think I did take some video of me flipping through it when I first opened it though, so I can insert that in here. So I'm happy with how this looks so far. I'm ready to start taking a look at analytics and things like that. Now, plot twist, here's what I'm concerned about. Normally, when I run ads on a book, the ads start working right away. Often, the problem I had with the last book I ran ads on, which I guess I can talk about them now because my pen name's out in the open from this, but I wrote a book at Christmas time called The 12 Gays of Christmas. It was a fun rom-com. I had a great time with this book. And I ran ads on that, and they were performing very well, but they went way outside my budget. Amazon did not treat the budget as if that was a real budget. They treated it like it was a rough suggestion. So I ended up having to end that ad campaign early because I was going to be overspending. But the ads were running. They were converting to sales. I was getting clicks and impressions. All the ads that I set up for this book are not running. I'm going to show you guys what I mean. The status says delivering, but there have been 0 impressions, and they were supposed to start running yesterday, at the start of yesterday. And I thought maybe the console would just take a couple hours to a day or so to catch up, but based on my past experiences with the ads, I think something's wrong, because at this point it still has 0 impressions, 0 sales, 0 page reads, nothing. And, of course there's the idea that, maybe people just aren't interested in this book, but the fact that there's no impressions is making me think that it's just not showing the ad at all, which is very frustrating. I mean, on the bright side, it means I haven't spent any money, but also part of this experiment is me wanting to run the ads. So I'm going to go into the console and adjust some of my bids to make a few of them higher, and then also add some additional keywords to it and hope that that can fix things. And if it doesn't, then I don't know, maybe I might have set something up wrong. Now I'm very concerned about that. So we're gonna figure all that out. Hello everybody. Today is August 23rd, 2024, and I am here to report that the ads never ran. I tried to run the ads, okay? I tried to run the ads on this book multiple times and they didn't run. I don't know what happened. I must have done something wrong, but I tried it like 3 times, and I've been able to successfully run ads on books before, so I know that this is anticlimactic, which is the worst thing that I guess a romance novel could be. So that didn't work out. So for a while, because the ads weren't working, I was getting just nothing on this book. I was getting 0 page reads, I was getting 0 sales, just nothing. And I was thinking, like, okay, normally for the majority of my romance novels that I release under my pen name and also my novellas and short stories and anthologies and things like that, normally they don't get 0. The book is there, it's just that people don't want it. So I'm like, okay, why not? And then I'm like, maybe it's genuinely that, like, people don't come to me for straight romance. Like, as I have a few male-female romances under my pen name, but lately my kind of romance pen name identity has been about queer romance, specifically bisexual romance. There's been male-male, female-female, there's been, 3 ways and things like that. There's been a variety of different types of romance, but almost none of it has been fully heterosexual people. And so I'm thinking that, like, maybe that's just not what people are looking for. Maybe the fact that, like, Colleen Hoover has carved out this niche of people who like to read her books, and I don't know the exact demographic makeup of all of Colleen's readers. I am not a straight woman, but I assume that most of her readers likely are, because from what I've heard, a lot of the tropes in her books and a lot of the assumptions about human motivation and interaction that happens don't make sense to me, but I hear that they do make sense to people who are used to, like, more exclusively heterosexual relationships and things like that. So that could be something related to that. That could be why, like, I might just not have the right mindset to be writing books with the conventions that most straight people enjoy. And that's interesting because I remember a few years ago, there was this documentary that came out on Hulu about women who make a lot of money writing erotica and writing rapid release romance and things like that. And one of the things it mentioned was that a lot of women were writing these stories where the men were very dominant and the men like to take control, and that so many straight women have a fetish for that. Which, again, we don't kink shame on this channel. If that is your fetish, whether you are a straight woman or a queer woman or a man, if you like being dominated, you do you, right? Like, good for you, have fun. But I just didn't know that that was so common among women, because it's not something I've ever felt. I'm actually I'm not going to get into all of the details of my sexual preferences with everyone, because that's a little bit invasive, I think, that's a little parasocial. But I will say that, like, the idea of a man dominating me sexually has always made me feel put off. Like, that, I find that, like, no, that's a turn off to me. But I understand that other women like that. Okay, and I just didn't know that it was so common. So I'm thinking there might be certain conventions that are more common in straight communities, if straight communities are even a thing. And it might be also, like, a neurotypical thing. I've talked before about how, like, when, at least in my experience, growing up as someone who is not heterosexual and who is neurodivergent, those things combined make it a little bit, you pick up on gender cues a little bit less. A lot of the gender cues of the world can be kind of unstated, such as, like, it's common for women to gravitate towards this or men to gravitate towards this. A lot of those things people say are due to being socialized as masculine or feminine, but when these certain things make you have a different relationship to gender roles and also make you less likely to pick up on non-directly stated social cues, you might not internalize those things as easily. So it might just, like, sometimes it's just a thing that I've never picked up on. And I think that could be part of it. That could be a reason. Like, I will honestly say, like, when I have written romances about straight people, they always sell less than when I write romances that have either a same gender relationship or, some type of queer romance in there, or the characters identify as non-straight, right? When I write romances that are not just about heterosexual people, they always have tended to sell better, even though I think there's a smaller audience for that. So I might just be better at those. Like, that could just be it. So what I did, though, because I was like, I don't want this book I don't want there to be no analytics for this at all. The ads didn't work, and without ads, nobody's finding it, because people tend to just, when I put out a new queer romance, I get downloads and page reads. So I'm like, okay, I need to do something, though, so that I have some data to analyze for this part of the video. So what I did was I ran a free promotion on Kindle. I'm going to show you guys right now how to do that, and then I'll show you the results of that. All right, hello, we are here on my Amazon author page. You can see some of the other books that I wrote. As you can see, this is If You Can't Take the Heat. You may notice that the cover is different. The reason for that is that along the way, as I was doing this process, I was talking to some more of my friends who write romance and publish independently and do rapid release type of things. And I was hearing a lot that, especially as a romance author, you want to have kind of a consistent brand identity across your covers. And I had been using a lot of the same fonts and the same type of things, but since a lot of my books were starting to gear more like, they're not straight up erotica. They do have graphic sex scenes, but a lot of them have more romantic comedy elements, and that's more of the direction that I want to go in, where the stories are romantic comedies, but they also have graphic scenes in them. So they're definitely, I think, more romance than erotica, because also they like take place in the real universe and not like a suspended BDSM fantasy. So I was like, I want to market these more as spicy romantic comedies than as straight up erotica. And from what I've noticed, like a lot of erotica has these like shirtless men with chiseled abs and women in lingerie and things like that on the cover of the like stock photos of models. But when you go more into romantic comedy, you get a lot of more of these like illustrated covers with cute, colorful backgrounds and things like that. So I decided to change the cover of If You Can't Take the Heat. I did those big block letters on the cover to try to be like Colleen, but it already wasn't working for me. It wasn't selling at all. And I was saying, I got to make it consistent with this new brand vision. So I made this new cover for the ebook. I actually kept the paperback cover the same because I didn't want to have to like change all of the formatting for that. And also this book was already not selling, so I don't know who was buying the paperback. Anyway, the paperback still looks exactly like this, but without the not for resale stripe across it. So I went over here and then I went to this tab called Promote and Advertise. Then it will take you here. Right now, I'll show you guys how I would do this because I made the book free within the past month. It's not going to let me do it again right now, but I went to free book promotion. Oh, it looks like I can't actually do that. I guess I made it free, so I can't I can't do that again soon. I'll just do it with one of my other books to show you guys how I would do it. Let's see. I haven't made Frat Boys with Benefits free, and I'm never going to because it sells so well, but I'd show you how I would do it. So if I would create a free book promotion, it takes you here. Then you can choose the dates to make it free, so you can choose up to a 5-date range. You choose the range of dates, and then you save it and it'll make it free on those days. I'm not going to do that with this book though because it sells well and people will get it without it being free. It's not good, you guys. All right, it has had a total of, in terms of books downloaded, there have been 445, which is actually pretty good, but those were all free. I gave those away for free. On top of that, I have had some Kindle page reads. I have had 753 Kindle page reads. I have earned a total of like $2 to $3 from this book. I think it's like $2.60 or something I've earned from this book. So it has not done well, to say the least. It has done awful, actually. It has done awful. I took a look at the ratings it's gotten, so it hasn't gotten any reviews from anyone. I really wanted to know what people thought of it, but it hasn't gotten any reviews. It has gotten ratings though, so we can look at that as well. All right, so we're on my author page right now. If you guys can see, the covers all have the same kind of theme going right now. I changed them all recently. They all look different a couple weeks ago. If we go to If You Can't Take the Heat, let's take a look here. Now that I've changed the cover, it's got the little rat here. So we've got like right here we've got like Ratatouille, the little rat right there. And then we've got our characters on the cover. I had fun doing the new cover. So this book currently has 3 ratings. The first rating I got on it was 2 stars. So for a while there was 1 rating on this book and it was 2 stars. And I was like, wow, people hate when I write straight romance, it turns out. And now it has 3 total ratings. It has a 2-star, a 3-star, and a 4-star rating. So it has an average of 3 stars. So this book is like aggressively average. It is the most mediocre book I have ever written, it seems. It's not ranking well. There's no reviews, so I don't know what people liked or disliked about it, which is kind of a shame because I was hoping to have more data to talk about this with. But that doesn't matter because even though this book did not blow up and become a viral TikTok sensation where people are arguing about how problematic it was that she's in love with the rat from Ratatouille, I still did have some victories when it came to this book, and I still did learn a lot, and that's what I'm going to get into next. I recently started using this software called AutoCrit, which has not sponsored me. It'd be cool if they do one day, but basically it's a software where you can upload your drafts, and then it goes through and it tells you like, oh, you've repeated these words a lot of times, you've repeated these phrases a lot of times. It kind of helps you go back with like line by line and sentence editing. The main reason I was excited to use that software for this book is that it has a feature where you can compare it to other writers. You can see how much your book is similar similar to other writers in terms of types of writing. I'm going to put the graphs up on the screen in a second, but I think this one showed me a pretty clear victory. All right, you ready? So the first thing it did, you can select authors, like it has a list of best-selling authors whose book data is in the database of the software. And you can put your draft of your book, your file in there, and compare how similar it is in terms of writing style to that author. So the first comparison it did was for Colleen Hoover and similar best-selling authors. So her writing and other similar types of writers who are doing similar things and selling a lot of books. It compared the writing of my manuscript to hers, and I got a score of 81.4% similar. So at first I was like, okay, looks like I really wrote like Colleen Hoover. But then I decided to change the setting and compare it not to Colleen and similar authors, but exclusively to Colleen Hoover. How much did the writing style in this book match Colleen's writing specifically? And when I put that in, I got an even higher score. The software detected that in terms of writing style, the way that the book is paced, the way that the dialogue is, and we'll go into those specifics in a second, this book was 84.5% similar to Colleen Hoover's writing. So I was like, I was successful in my mission of trying to write like her. I was able to emulate another writer's style in this book. And it worked. It didn't sell for me, but it worked. So then it would score it about different pieces of the writing. So in terms of pacing and momentum, it gave me a score of 91%. So my book and Colleen's books as a whole are paced 91% the same. It said, wow, your pacing is snappy. Less than 5% of your paragraphs are being flagged as slow paced. Hopefully this meets your intent of a quick paced novel with a few places for your reader to take a breath. There you go. Colleen does that, and I do that too. She also does quickly paced paragraphs, which is why her books are probably something that you can read through really fast. There aren't a lot of slow, reflective moments. It's kind of just like insanity, next thing, next crazy thing that happens. You won't believe what happens next. We're in a Darman video. What happens next is shocking, that kind of thing. Just keeps going like that. Mine did too, so it says we're 91% similar. In terms of dialogue, it gave us a score of 86% similar. It says dialogue has an impact on nearly every aspect of your writing. Dialogue can make or break your character building, world building, pacing, on and on. When in doubt, talk it out. So the fact that Colleen Hoover's books and my book both had a lot of dialogue, keeping the characters talking with each other, having a lot of conflicts being, discussed through words, things like that. We had a similar proportion of dialogue to action and setting description and things like that. Average words per sentence. She writes, her average sentence has 10.2 words. My average sentence has 10.7 words. So it seems like in terms of sentence length, we were also similar. In terms of sentences with dialogue, 24.2% of Colleen's sentences have dialogue and 23.7% of my sentences have dialogue. If we round those, both of us have exactly 24% of the sentences in our book containing dialogue. Very similar, right? Like when I was doing this, I wasn't like going through Colleen's books and trying to break down mathematically, ooh, how often is she using dialogue here? How often is she varying her sentence length? I was just going on vibes. I just read some of her books and thought, all right, if I want to have a similar kind of vibe, what do I do? And guys, I matched the vibe. I nailed it. I matched the vibe perfectly. I used way too many adverbs, and that's the fault of me writing this too fast. So we're just gonna ignore that. In terms of repetition, Colleen and I scored 95.6% identical. That's almost 96%. We're close to having an identical amount of repetition in my book versus her books as a whole. It says, autocrit combs through your manuscript looking for excessive use of same words. Review the type and frequency of the words you use to keep your readers happy and entertained. So for how often Colleen repeats the same words in her book, I repeated the same words in my book roughly the same amount of time. It has the same vibe. And then there's something called the Flesh Reading Ease score, which I looked up, but I'm not entirely sure exactly how it's calculated, but it has to do with how easy is it for people to read this book. I've heard before that the majority of romances are written at an 8th grade reading level because the idea is that a lot of romances are meant to be mass market publications. They're meant for a lot of people to be able to read them, not for it to be like, oh, you must have a master's in English to be able to understand this book. They're supposed to be a little breezier than that, right? So in terms of how easy it is for a reader to pick this up, for any random person you pick off the street to pick up this book and read it and comprehend it, we both got similar scores. She got an 87 and I got an 81, meaning that both of our books are fairly easy for the average person to read. So honestly, with all of those statistics in mind, my mission of trying to write like Colleen Hoover was literally a success. I wrote like Colleen Hoover. I didn't sell like Colleen Hoover, but honestly, I think it's because my romance pen name has not built up the same target audience as hers. Maybe if the ads worked, we'd be having a different conversation right now, but honestly, this past summer, I've been broke as a joke, okay? I've been so broke to the point where, like, it's probably best that the ads didn't run for the sake of my bank account. It's been a really hard summer for me, you guys. I think if you guys have heard any updates from me in my personal life, I think you know, okay? So in the end, that was probably better, I think. If you want more writing vlog style videos like this in the future, where I take you guys on a ride of doing a type of writing experiment, maybe I'll try writing like other authors. If there are other authors you guys want to see me try writing like, let me know in the comments below. If they're romance, I'll do it under this pen name, especially if they're like, can fit into that like goofy rom-com kind of thing where the stakes can be very high and it can be dramatic. But if it's an author that does like extreme fetish erotica or does like fantasy or something and you want to see me write like someone entirely different, maybe I would make a new pen name for those type of experiments, because, you know, making pen names is fun. I have a good time with it. And right now this pen name has 28 books out, I think. So I've been doing a lot under this pen name, but I'm excited to continue doing more. So thoughts on who you want me to write like in the future? If you want to see another vlog like this, if this video was something you enjoyed, let me know in the comments below. Hello everybody! Today is September 4th, 2024, and I'm currently working on editing this entire vlog that I've been working on for months. I'm working on it here along with Z, who is my video editing intern. So say hi to Z, everybody. She helps me with video stuff. As an update, I know I mentioned earlier that I made a new cover for this book and that I updated it on the ebook but not the paperback. I've now updated it on the paperback too. Here it is. I decided that it would be more fun to have a copy of it that was, you know, like the official, just as like a memento, I guess. I have the doll that I named Juniper as well, but I thought it would be fun to have this new cover. And then along the way, I just ordered some copies of my other books with the new covers as well, just because I'm like, it'll be fun to just have like a paperback collection of, you know, the books. For ones that are like more short story length, I only ever release those in ebooks. I don't even do paperbacks. But for ones that are novella to novel length on their own, I do paperbacks. And so that's why I decided to get these just to have for fun. So that's the new cover there, just as a little update. Since this is the last day I'm going to be filming before focusing solely on editing this video, I thought I'd go over the final analytics for this book with everyone, so let's take a look at those real quick. When I am on the Kindle Unlimited pages read, it shows that there have been 930 total pages read, some from the US, some from Canada, and a few from the UK. Someone in the UK read 7 pages of the book, decided this is not for me, and didn't finish. But throughout the US and Canada, there have been multiple full read-throughs of this book, with the book being about 175 pages, I think, and 930 pages being read. That means it's been read through in total about 5 times on Kindle Unlimited, so that's roughly 5 customers. I took a look at the amount of royalties I've earned on this book, which is $7.29. Now, to be fair, about like $1.30 or something of that, I don't remember exactly how much, was my own from me buying this paperback copy, because I didn't buy it as a proof. I bought it as an official book because I didn't want it to have one of those like not for resale stickers over it. I wanted it to be one of the like the copies as it would look. So one of those is skewed for me, so it's more like $6. But when I took a look through it, you could see like how much is from each thing. So I didn't earn that much. I also looked at the number of total orders of the book, which is 2 print orders and 445 ebooks. Now, those 445 ebooks were all free downloads. I have earned no money from the ebooks. But the 2 print ones, one of them was mine, obviously, because it was this one, and then one other person out there in the world, shout out to you, whoever you are, one other person out there in the world bought it in print. It wasn't like friends and family, because this was a thing, you know, I talked about it a little bit, but I wasn't advertising it or linking it or sending it to people. I was trying to keep the secret to get as much of an accurate representation as possible. But this one was from me, so really that's one that was bought in print. And of course, as I mentioned earlier, the ads didn't run, so I spent no money whatsoever on promotion for this book. So what does this all mean? Well, let's return to my original question, the question that I was asking way back at the start of this video before we delved into this experiment at all. And that is Colleen Hoover a good writer? Can I write as well as she does? What makes someone a good writer? Well, Colleen's books, as I've said, have reached hundreds of thousands of readers. She started off as an independent author without a publishing contract, without an official publicity team or anything like that. And even back then, her books reached the right audience, and those people liked them and wanted to keep reading more. My book here, which I wrote following Colleen's usual rules, her usual tropes, this book sold the equivalent of 5 books worth of Kindle page reads and 1 paperback to an actual customer that wasn't just me buying this copy to show you. Plus 445 copies downloaded for free. So this book has reached a total of 451 customers, only 6 of whom who actually paid. And of all of those readers, this book got a total of 3 ratings on Amazon, 0 reviews, but 3 ratings with stars, leading to a 3-star average, 1 2-star rating, 1 3-star rating, and 1 4-star rating. This is quite possibly the most mediocre indie romance of all time, is what I'm saying. The fact that Colleen has more sales and more good reviews of her books could be an effect of her being better at marketing than I am, and then I could just say from that, well, that means nothing as to the quality of the writing. But I think that's way too simple of a way to look at this situation. In my opinion, the skill of writing isn't just about the complexity of your sentences or how vivid each of your descriptions is. Those are important pieces of it, but beyond that, it's about knowing your audience. Writing, above all else, is a form of communication. Fiction, above all else, is a form of entertainment. So the best fiction writers are those who know how to entertain the readers that they're reaching. If Colleen Hoover writes books that effectively communicate a story that entertains her audience, then she is a good writer. When I'm writing scripts for YouTube videos that entertain you guys, and when my ideas come through clearly to you, the viewers, then I'm a good writer. When I write books with LGBTQ representation that convey my own perspective on the world, but do so in a way that my audience is looking for, in those cases, I'm a good writer. When I fall short of that, such as with this, I'm not writing to my full potential. I'm not necessarily being a good writer. And honestly, I think that's what this book was missing. My romance audience is largely LGBTQ readers who enjoy the bisexual representation in most of my stories, and this book didn't offer that. As a result, it didn't entertain my audience. At the same time, though, writing this book did give me a ton of practice at writing outside of my comfort zone, raising the stakes in every scene, and creating an outline full of setups and payoffs while doing so on a very tight timeline. Basically, what I'm saying is, being a good writer is relative. Entertainment is subjective, and every reader is going to bring their own life experiences and their own perspectives into each situation. My metric for judging good writing is whether it effectively communicated its concepts, its tone, and its overall story to as many people as possible. In that way, Colleen Hoover is not a good writer for some people. She's a decent writer for me, because even though I can't understand half the shit she says to save my life, I still find the books entertaining in their absurdity. And even if that means I'm enjoying her books differently than some of her other fans might, that doesn't mean her books are any less good in a vacuum. It doesn't mean that they're any less good objectively. She might not be a good writer for you guys, for my audience, but that doesn't make her a bad writer in general, just as my failure to sell this book does not make me a bad writer in general, but it does probably make me bad at writing Colleen Hoover style straight people romance, because that's not my skill set. Overall, making this video got me thinking so much about those particular topics, about what kind of writer I want to be, what kind of writer I am, and what it even means to be a particular type of writer in the first place. It motivated me to get my personal branding together, to figure out what my own voice and my own branding as a romance author is going to be, because as you guys know, writing in this genre under a pen name has been largely experimental. It's been me throwing things at the wall, seeing what sticks, and then moving forward with that, treating it very similar to the way I treated starting and growing a YouTube channel. So changing the cover of this book, as well as changing the covers of my other books, that signified my commitment to branding myself as an author of spicy romantic comedies rather than writing erotica or dark romance or romantasy or anything else like that. Similarly, this book's failure to sell has motivated me to keep my focus on queer romance as I'm writing my Christmas romances moving forward into the holiday season. To continue doing what I've seen my audience respond well to in the past, but to use what I learned in this process to improve the writing in those contexts and see what I can put together. Along with that, I can take away the skills that I gained by practicing my writing in this book. No time spent practicing your writing is ever wasted. I firmly believe that. So this is all just a really long-winded way of saying that the entire process was a learning experience, and I'm really glad I did it, not just because I learned things, but also because it was fun as hell. So I want to hear your guys' thoughts on everything involved in this too, and once again I want to give a thank you to Womanizer for sponsoring this video. Womanizer, who sells high quality adults only toys They are linked in my description below, so check them out. I will see you guys again in a couple of weeks for another book review video, but in the meantime, I hope you guys are reading things you enjoy no matter what type of books they may be. That's all to say, happy reading!
Get you some nuts.
Yeah, you effin'.
Up yours, woke moralist. We'll see who cancels who.